You are listening to American Hope Talk Radio. I am your host, W.L. Laney. My guest today is Judy Hoberman, president of Selling in a Skirt, speaker, coach, radio show host, author, and her own best audience. She is the voice for women in business and gender expert on Fox Business News Radio. Judy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
All right. What do you mean when you say selling in a skirt? What are you talking about?
You know, I come from decades of being the only female in male-dominated industries. So when I decided to go out and start my own business, again, I tried to find something that meant what I was doing. And when I say selling in a skirt, I mean I am selling as a female. I'm not selling as a female in a male's body or in a male's attitude or male's behavior. I'm selling as a woman. I'm selling with my feminine skills. I'm selling on building relationships. That's selling in a skirt.
Okay, I watched a little bit of one of your videos where in a seminar setting you were talking about one of your first positions selling as a woman in a man's world, and they insisted that you wear a skirt and they sent you up the ladder. Did that really happen?
Oh yeah, it really did happen. I was very young. I was in my 20s, and what they told me was that I had to dress for the part, which is normal. It was the 70s. And I had to wear a dress or a skirt. I had to stand out in a crowd. I was the only female in the entire state that was selling commercial roofing, so I knew I stood out in a crowd. But they insisted, you know, that I had to dress for the part. It was a roofing company, and so my appointments were on the roof. And so, yeah, I had to climb the ladder with a skirt on, and didn't realize that that was the reason I was such an asset to their company. And, you know, every time I'd climb up a roof, I'd have somebody underneath me in case I fell. So, you know, I mean, I understood that they wanted to protect me, but they were also underneath me in a skirt.
How humiliating is that?
You know, I don't know if it was more humiliating or more the fact that, you know, women love to be taken seriously. That's one big cry I hear all the time. I was so not taken seriously. It was just amazing. And so I tried to play the game a little bit and, you know, be better than they expected. And I really was better than they expected. But it wasn't right for me. I was so not authentic. I was not doing what I was supposed to do. I was making good money, but I wasn't where I should be. And it's not about the money all the time. So I left and I went into insurance and stayed there for quite a long time. Okay,
so now you teach people how to sell.
Yes,
and your focus is on the women in the workplace. You also teach men, is that correct?
I do. But again, you have to remember that my mentors were all men, and they could only teach me up to a certain point because they were men and I wasn't. The same way that when I coach men, I can only take them to a certain point, and then I have to move them over to a male coach because I can teach them sales, but I can't teach them to do it the way that I would do it because we're not the same. We're different. And we have to understand that these are just differences and embrace them, but get somebody else that can, you know, pitch in and finish the process.
Okay, so do men really get it?
Do men really get it? Yeah, they really do. Because a lot of times when I'm doing a training or a coaching or I'm doing keynote speaking, a lot of times men will say, wow, now I could talk to my wife. Because I give them the basic differences. For instance, I mean, you know, I don't know if you're married or not, but let's use me for instance. If my husband said to me, how was your day? And I knew he was very, you know, transactional, meaning that he only likes to hear bullet points, and I started giving him a whole story, he'd be tapping his foot, checking his watch. The same thing happens in the business world. If your boss is male and he says to you, who's female, did you make that sale? Now, the answer he's looking for is yes or no. But what happens is a lot of times women give the whole narrative, and they don't really want to hear that. They want to hear the answer, and if they want an explanation, they'll ask more. So they do get it. They don't necessarily agree with, you know, the way that women speak, but we don't always agree with the way men speak.
Let's go back just a minute. We talk about hope and providing hope for people. Nothing happens in this country without sales. And so what you're doing in teaching sales is a very important thing. But what about the person who doesn't have a job? What would you say to them?
Well, one of the things you have to remember is that we're all in sales. It doesn't matter if you're selling a product or a service, you're always selling yourself. So a person that doesn't have a job is still selling something. If you look at stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home dads, they still have to sell to their families the dinner that they're cooking or the choices that they've made for the day. A baby still sells their parents that if you give me a bottle, I'll be quiet. So we're all selling, and you have to understand that sales is not necessarily a four-letter word. It's actually something that's how people get through lives, get through their careers, and that's how people make a living. So selling is not necessarily only about a product or a service. It's about selling yourself. And people that don't have jobs, are they ever going to have a job? Or are they ever going to talk to somebody? Are they ever going to talk to a salesperson that's going to sell them something? Because it's all give and take.
Judy, I personally believe that a better type of selling is not selling per se, but rather educating.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, you're talking about the difference in communication between men and women, and yes, I am married. I've been happily married for 42 years. Well, the joke of it is I've been happily married for 10 years, which isn't bad out of 42, but that's really not true. We've had a great relationship. My wife has worked with me in the business, and I very much understand the difference in communication styles. How important is it for men to understand women? Do we have to go more than halfway, or are women going to meet us halfway?
I don't think it's halfway, because even in a relationship, people say, I'll give 50% if you give 50%. Well, that's not it. You have to give 100%. So I don't know if it's meeting halfway. I think it's understanding the differences. So, if the communication differences, they're tremendous, and yet they're small. Because if you understand how men and women speak to each other, that's the whole thing. If you're talking to your wife about something, you have to be able to allow her to speak the way she's comfortable. She has to allow you to speak the way that you're comfortable. And it goes back to a basic source of a process, and that's asking questions.
Okay.
So if I asked you a question and I said to you, do you like this? Your answer is yes or no. But if I gave you that same question in a different way, if I said to you, so tell me, why is having this so important to you? We now have a conversation. And I'm going to tell you that in 30 years of sales, I have never, ever, ever sold anybody anything. And I was always the top producer, the top agency manager. I was at the top. And why? Because all I did was have a conversation. I never sold anything. People don't want to be sold. They want to be part of a process, but they want to be able to come up with a mutually satisfying solution, but they want to be part of that. So if you sell, it doesn't always work like that.
That's the importance of education, isn't it? You're educating and helping the customer or client come to the conclusion that your product or service is best for them.
Absolutely. And you know what else? Part of that sales process is if it's not the right thing, you have to be able to say it's not the right thing and end that. And still, you've educated them, but maybe what you have isn't the right thing. And so you don't want to give somebody something that's not going to work for them. So you don't sell them something. You don't give them what you were offering. But when you do it and you do it the right way, you still get referrals from that because people believe that you really did your absolute best. I mean, I was always on straight commission. And when somebody would, look at an insurance policy and I would say to them, this is not the right one for your family, they would ask me, they say, well, aren't you on commission? I'm like, yeah. And they would say, but you're not going to make any money. And I'd say to them, this is not right for you. And so you gain more credibility when you do the right thing all the time.
Yes, well, I believe in that sincerely. That's the only way to sell is to do what is best for the customer and the client, and forget about your commissions. If you concentrate on meeting the need and meeting that need with the right product or service, the commissions are going to follow. That's a given.
Absolutely.
Okay, now let's make this a little more difficult for you. You talk about men are transactional And
Yes.
I have to agree 100%. I like to get the job done. Don't bother me with all the details. In fact, the fewer details, the better it is for me. And women are relational. They want to build a relationship first.
Correct.
If we think about the education process, that would lead us to believe that relational selling is better than transactional selling.
Well, it is because, let's think about the economy that we're in right now. Now, I know a lot of people think that we're coming out of it, and because the sales for homes are up and this is up, but in reality, I mean, things are not much better. So, especially in times like this, don't you think that if you built a relationship with somebody, that even if they didn't buy from you right this moment, they would later on down the road because you've started a relationship? And if they did buy something now, aren't they more inclined to stay with you because you've built a relationship, because you've shown them that they can trust you and that you trust them? I mean, I think that's all part of it. With that said, you have to understand that not all men are transactional and not all women are relational. Because I know plenty of women that are very transactional. All they want to do is get in, get out, and get the check. That's it. That's how that's what their DNA is. But in all the data that we look at, most women are relational and most men are transactional.
Okay,
Now, what happens when a man is transactional, he's not necessarily building that relationship first or second or third, but he might do it fourth or fifth. He just wants to get the job done. He wants to know facts, figures, features, and benefits, and then we'll see about the relationship.
Okay, so you had a hard time getting started as a woman in a man's world. I hear you saying, and I'm going to go ahead and put words in your mouth, and you can correct me, but what you're saying is that the woman's approach to sales is better than a man's approach.
I didn't say better. I said different. Because really, honestly, it depends on what industry you're in. There's many times if you are a pharmaceutical rep or you're working with people that have 32 seconds to give you their time, you have to be more transactional, but you still can build a relationship in those 30 seconds. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. So it's not always, it's not that it's better, it's just that it's different. I do believe that women that build relationships and men that build relationships have a much longer and a more profitable and more productive sales process than those that don't, because people know that no matter what, they can count on you to be there. And I think that's the important part. So it's not that it's better, it's different.
Are you saying that men will do a better job selling to men?
Here's the thing. A lot of times people would rather sell to men and women, because men make a decision faster. They don't go through all these questions in their mind about how this is going to affect them and their family. They make basic decisions pretty quickly. Women take a longer time to make decisions. So it's not that men sell better to men or women sell better to women. It's not like that. It's more of you take your lead from the person that you're working with. I think a lot of men prefer to work with somebody that they can, understand the whole process. But again, you have to take your lead from the person you're working with. So again, I don't think it's one-on-one.
Okay, you said on your website that 85% of all purchases are made by women. Is that an accurate statistic still?
It is accurate. And here's the thing. It's 85% of all consumer purchases are made by women, and it's not just food, it's not just clothing. We're talking now about insurance, we're talking now homes, we're talking about cars. There's a ton of women that are into sports that buy more sport events tickets than men do. But you also have to remember that women control a lot of money, and especially boomer women. Boomer women are coming into a double windfall because a lot of them outlive their spouse, and a lot of them, and most of them, outlive their parents. So there's money coming from two different directions. So now they've got more money to spend. Women spend $5 trillion annually. So this is not a niche market anymore. Women have lots of money, but here's the other part. They're also making lots of money. So it's not just that they have it, they're also making it.
So you better be able to sell to women.
Absolutely. Whether you're male or female, if you can't speak to a woman, you're not going to do well. You have to be able to build that relationship. You have to be able to include her in the process. You have to be able to understand what's important to her and to her family. Because when she's making a decision, it's not just about her. Now, if she's single, yes, it is. But when she's making a decision for everybody in her family. If she's buying a house, she wants to know that when she's cooking dinner, that she can see where her young kids are, that there's a family room right there, or she could see the backyard. If she's buying a car, she's not as interested in the horsepower or, what the styling is. She's looking at the inside of the car to see how it's going to accommodate all the kids and their sporting equipment and everything else. So she takes a lot more information to process than most men.
Okay. Now, what product do you have available that's going to help the men? I mean, it's obvious that your books are going to be helping women, but what do you have that's going to help men sell better to women in today's economy?
Well, my book, everybody laughs when I say that the book is called Selling in a Skirt. And all the men will say, well, I don't wear a skirt and I'm not a woman and blah, blah, blah. However, it gives you all these strategies about how to sell to a woman. So the book is really, really for men. I have so many men that read my book and email me and say, wow, I can now work with my sales team, or I can now work with, women in my office. So that's a great thing.
What's the best way to get a hold of you, Judy?
On my website is sellinginasskirt.com.
Okay, and if they go there, any special offers that you're making to them today?
I do. I have a great offer for them. I have a book that I've never marketed before. I don't know why I didn't market it. I really have no idea, but I haven't. And it's called Skirting the Issues. And it's actually a mini guide. It actually gives you some of the principles and examples and strategies that you can put into practice immediately. And it's free to everybody that's listening. And you can just go to sellinginasskirt.com and it's /unlimited and just pick that up.
Judy, thank you very much for being with us on the show today. This is great information. I hope that a lot of men and women will go to your website, sellinginasskirt.com. Judy, thank you very much for being with us on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You have been listening to American Hope Talk Radio with W.L. Laney. Questions and comments can be emailed to wl@wllaney.com. Go to www.wllaney.com for more programs like the one you heard today.